Is living in ultimate luxury worth cutting off your finger and getting a tattoo on your nuts? Yakuza members seem to think so, and they indeed have a particular way of doing things, spending money and all. So let's have a look behind the veil of the horrifying Japanese mafia. Who are the Yakuza? The Yakuza, Japan's infamous organized crime syndicates, are as fascinating as they are fearsome, with a history and cultural significance that's worthy of a Hollywood blockbuster. As if from a fairy tale, or better yet a manga, the Yakuza beginnings are as humble as they are intriguing. Their name, Yakuza, derives from a losing hand in a traditional Japanese card game called Oichi Kabu. If you draw an 8, ya, 9, ku, and 3, za, you end up with a score of 0, making it the worst possible hand. So essentially, the Yakuza started off as the losers of society. If you're unfamiliar with how they do today, you're in for a treat. Though not the wealthiest organized crime in the world, they still have a vast political and financial power. Moreover, their leaders live one truly spectacular life. However, not all high-ranking Yakuza are as happy with the hand they were dealt. But I'm getting ahead of myself. There is time for Kenichi Shinoda and Shoko Tendo stories later. These early Yakuza members belonged to the Burakumin, Japan's lowest social caste. The Burakumin were societal outcasts, relegated to jobs involving death, like butchery and execution, which were considered impure in Buddhist and Shinto traditions. When life gives you lemons, some people make lemonade. But the Burakumin? They started peddling stolen goods and opening gambling dens. You could say they found a way to shuffle their bad hand into a royal flush. Coincidentally, this was their main way to gain some much-needed capital. In other words, they cheated a lot. This is how the first Yakuza managed to gain some power. One would wonder how such an organization, prone to bending the rules and avoiding regulations, managed to create one of the strictest hierarchical organized crime structures in the world. These bunch of misfits are more organized than your grandma's knitting club. At the very top, there's the big boss, the man, the Capite Tutti Capi, or as they know him in Japan, the Oyabun. This is the father figure of the organization. He represents the patriarchal values that demand loyalty, respect, absolute obedience, and, of course, command over the remote control. Below him are the Kobuns, the Oyabun's proverbial sons. They strictly follow the Oyabun's orders and can operate under the Yakuza's family protection. As you can see, this hierarchy follows the traditional family structure. Sorry, non-binary people, the Yakuza is not well known for its progressive practices and recognition of liberal ideas. Still, you can always try to cancel them, though that won't end very well. You're not the first to try. Regardless, unsurprisingly, the Yakuza consists of several families. Still, one of them is without a doubt something like the Kardashians, loved and hated, yet powerful, wealthy, and extremely narrow-minded in their ways. They are the most powerful family in the syndicate. The Yamaguchi Gumi. Just like any self-respecting mafia, the Yakuza consists of several well-organized crime families. At their peak in 1963, Yakuza became more populated than a Taylor Swift concert. During this period, the syndicates boasted a staggering 184,100 members. Today, due to legal crackdowns and changing societal attitudes, Yakuza membership has drastically dwindled to around 20,400, including quasi-members. Despite this decline, the Yakuza remains a significant force, with numerous families operating across Japan. Among these families, several major syndicates stand out, including the Inagawa Kai, Sumiyoshi Kai, and, of course, the Yamaguchi-gumi, the largest and most powerful of them all. The Yamaguchi-gumi was founded in 1915 by Harukichi Yamaguchi in Kobe, a bustling port city. Initially, it was a small group of dock workers, but it expanded its operations and influence over time. The syndicate saw significant growth under the leadership of Kazuo Taoka, who became the third Kumicho in 1946. Taoka, known as the Godfather of Godfathers, was instrumental in transforming the Yamaguchi-gumi into a criminal empire. Under his rule, the syndicate diversified its activities to include gambling, extortion, drug trafficking, and real estate, among other ventures, just like a game of Monopoly, but with a bit more katana and gun-wielding. Taoka's charisma, strategic alliances, and ruthless loyalty enforcement helped the Yamaguchi-gumi dominate the Japanese underworld. By the 1960s, the Yamaguchi-gumi had become the largest Yakuza syndicate, a position it maintains to this day. At its height, the syndicate controlled nearly half of all Yakuza members, a testament to its formidable presence. The Yamaguchi-gumi structure mirrors that of a sprawling corporation, complete with a hierarchical chain of command. At the top sits the Kumicho, followed by the Wakagashira, second in command, and the Shategashira, third in command. Below these top ranks are numerous subsidiary organizations, each led by its own Oyabun, boss, who report back to the main hierarchy. It's much like a multi-leveled marketing business, but one you can lose more than your savings if you decide to step out. This multi-layered structure ensures that orders from the top flow smoothly down through the ranks, maintaining discipline and efficiency. The syndicate operates on a strict code of loyalty and honor, reminiscent of feudal Japan's samurai ethos. And just like the samurais, the Yamaguchi-gumi and the Yakuza themselves have some pretty weird rituals. Now, if you think I will talk about tea ceremonies and the symbolic washing of hands when entering a shrine, you're pretty close, except there's a bit more finger-cutting and tattoos involved. The Yakuza rituals. Becoming a member isn't as simple as signing a contract. It's something like that, but instead of ink, you use sake. The ritual is called Sakazuki and is more dramatic than any fraternity initiation. The ceremony takes place in a sanctified space, complete with an altar and 12 candles symbolizing the zodiac. The boss, or Oyabun, takes a sip of sake from a cup and then passes it to the new recruit, who drinks from the same cup. This exchange symbolizes a bond stronger than blood. I mean, blood is thicker than water, but weird things happen when you add alcohol to the mix. So the ceremony is like becoming blood brothers. But since we live in an age where we are all aware of blood-transmitted diseases, using booze is a good substitute. All in all, the Sakazuki is like your first corporate team building. Except if you get drunk and tell the boss what you think of him, you might lose something more than your job. In fact, it's almost certain you will, as insulting the Oyabun is considered a capital crime. Luckily, in most cases, you won't pay the ultimate price. All you have to do is cut off your pinky. No, that's not a joke. You really are required to cut off part of your finger. This pinky shortening ritual is called yubitsume, and is used both as a punishment and a penance. When a Yakuza member makes a significant mistake, they must cut off the tip of their left pinky and present it to their boss as an apology. The idea is that with each finger lost, the member's ability to wield a sword diminishes, making them more reliant on the group. The Oyabun will then keep the pinky in a jar and place it in a visual place in their office. That's a perfectly normal setting. A nice picture, a great vase, a jar of cut-off fingers, and some family portraits all around. Oh, are those sweets on your desk? Or are those the noses of your enemies? Today, this samurai-inspired tradition is used only for capital transgressions against the family. Otherwise, a formal apology is preferred to mutilation. After all, having a room full of people with missing pinkies is a bit of a giveaway for the police. Plus, prosthetic fingertips have become quite popular, allowing ex-Yakuza to blend in more easily. And while finger cutting is outdated, getting tattoos is still a must for Yakuza members. Tattoos in the Yakuza are more than just body art. They're a badge of honor. Known as irizumi, these tattoos cover the entire body, often including the genitalia, and are done using a traditional, painfully slow, hand-poked method with sharpened bamboo or steel. This isn't your quick trip to the local tattoo parlor. It's a years-long commitment that tests one's endurance and dedication. The tattoos often depict symbols of power, courage, and determination, such as dragons, tigers, and koi carp. Sorry, no My Little Pony tattoos allowed. Despite the stunning artistry, these tattoos are typically hidden under clothing. Yakuza members might reveal their ink only during private gatherings, or when they're really keen on impressing someone at the local bathhouse. Now that's an extreme version of show and tell. The reason behind hiding the tattoos is very simple. It's out of respect for Japanese culture, which frowns upon body ink. One would think that having all these tattoos would definitely help the police find and arrest all the members. But in fact, there's no need for that. Unlike other mafia syndicates around the world, the Yakuza is pretty open with what they do and how they do it. Their members even register with the police of their own free will. Shocking, right? Well, the Yakuza's relationship with the government, the police, and the public is something you wouldn't expect. How do the Yakuza make their money? Now, when we talk about the criminal underworld, you expect the criminals to be, well, underground. However, in Japan, the Yakuza is more like a mainstream J-pop song that somehow survives the overall public disapproval. The public's negative view of the Yakuza was recently discovered. Up until a few years ago, the Yakuza were seen more like a Robin Hood type of character. Although they did steal from the rich, they also robbed the poor and anyone in between. Still, with flashy PR stunts like the help they offered after the 2011 Japan earthquake and tsunami, they gave themselves a nice polish in front of regular men, women, and children. After the massive earthquake, it wasn't the government that first responded with aid. It was the Yakuza. Yes, those same fellows who you'd expect to be at the other end of a shady deal were the first to arrive with trucks filled with supplies. This wasn't their first rodeo either. They did the same after the 1995 Kobe earthquake, and even sent men into the hazardous Fukushima nuclear reactor to help manage the fallout. You could say they're the bad boys with a big heart, albeit a heart that occasionally dabbles in extortion and drug trafficking. So why don't the Japanese police just crack down on them? The relationship between the Yakuza and the authorities is more nuanced than a simple good versus evil narrative. Historically, the Yakuza have been involved in various quasi-official roles, including providing security during President Eisenhower's visit to Japan in 1960. Imagine a bunch of well-dressed gangsters ensuring the safety of the U.S. president. I guess that's how you treat the leader of those who dropped 2 atomic bombs on you just 15 years prior. The Yakuza's integration into society is also somewhat pragmatic. Completely criminalizing them might drive their activities underground, making them even harder to monitor. And let's not forget, the Japanese authorities sometimes need a little muscle for those pesky jobs no one else wants to touch. Like moving unwilling homeowners out of prime real estate. As one Yakuza member put it, without them, cities wouldn't be able to develop. Talk about being indispensable. So, unsurprisingly, the Yakuza benefit greatly from the entire ordeal and semi-shady schemes they were allowed to take on. As you can imagine, they weren't conducting bake sales to become multi-billionaires. Instead, they relied on good old-fashioned drug trafficking, prostitution, and extortion. The drug trade is particularly lucrative, with the Yakuza importing nearly every illegal drug in Japan, from meth and marijuana to MDMA and ketamine. As one Yakuza boss bluntly put it, one sure way of making money is drugs. That's the one thing you can't get hold of without an underworld connection. The Yakuza also have their hands in human trafficking, bringing women from places like South America and Eastern Europe under false pretenses and forcing them into prostitution. They operate brothels disguised as massage parlors, karaoke bars, or love hotels. The poor civilian front owners, often coerced into complicity, bear the brunt of police crackdowns, while the Yakuza keep raking in the profits. In the world of white-collar crime, the Yakuza have perfected the art of sokaya, corporate blackmail. They buy shares in a company, gain access to shareholder meetings, and then use the threat of exposing sensitive information to extort money. This unconventional method has been surprisingly effective in a society where public perception is paramount. Still, the Yakuza also operates a number of legal businesses, all of which are registered and paying taxes. After all, dirty money must be laundered somehow, and owning your own company is the most secure way. That doesn't mean they don't get some lucrative deals from the government in a less than crystal clear way. Many construction deals go precisely to the Yakuza. Still, their companies go far and beyond to make sure their infrastructural projects are completed fast and to the highest of quality. After all, if the engineer fails, he might lose not only his job, but his pinky as well. However, this love-hate relationship between the Yakuza and the public ended with the Yamaguchi-gumi gang war. This internecine conflict forced the Japanese government to take a harder stance. The result was a series of stringent anti-Yakuza laws aimed at curbing their influence. These laws targeted their financial operations, making it harder for them to launder money and freezing their assets. As a result, the Yakuza's membership has reportedly declined to historic lows. And for the first time, they're letting members go. Not because of arrests, but because they can't afford to pay them. Imagine a gangster getting laid off like a middle manager during a corporate downsizing. Still, the Yakuza bosses are far from being dirt poor. Just look at Kenichi Shinoda. The guy is among the richest. Kenichi Shinoda.
He is the godfather of Japan's most powerful mob family. A swaggering, law-scoffing, and always hat-wearing crime syndicate leader. Now 70-year-old Kenichi Shinoda is also a global target. The U.S. Treasury moved to block Shinoda and his deputy, Kiyoshi Takayama, from any U.S. assets and transactions in an effort to freeze them out of the global financial market. The Treasury Department announced the crackdown last summer in an attempt to flush the crime syndicates out of global markets.
Kenichi Shinoda, the godfather of Japan's most infamous Yakuza syndicate, Yamaguchi-gumi, lives a life that's part crime drama, part reality show. Imagine Tony Soprano with a penchant for public transit and ramen noodles, and you've got a pretty good picture of Shinoda's unusual lifestyle. As the head honcho of an empire raking in billions from various unsavory activities, Shinoda is, unsurprisingly, rolling in dough. But don't picture him in a gold-plated mansion with a pet tiger. Instead, he's the kind of guy who insists on taking the train to his induction ceremony. Yes, the most feared man in the Japanese underworld prefers a cozy seat on the Shinkansen over a tricked-out limo. And while other crime bosses might celebrate their new position with caviar and champagne, Shinoda opts for a humble bowl of street-side ramen. Clearly, the way to his heart is through his stomach, provided it's served in a greasy spoon. But don't let the modest meals fool you. Shinoda's wealth and power are as sprawling as the Tokyo skyline. His spending habits, though, could make for a quirky episode of Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous. He's known to invest in everything, from high-stakes corporate ventures to the local rain gutters, which he occasionally orders his gang to clean. That's right. The same guys who might extort a business owner on Tuesday could be seen tidying up the neighborhood temple on Wednesday. That's how you keep the public on your side. Yet not much is known about Shinoda, as he keeps most of his life in secrecy. That's actually a Yakuza trait. They don't share their lavish lifestyles, and more often than not, live a presumably normal life. Ah, that damn PR is always on their minds. Still, there are some glimpses of how they spend their billions, and most often, it's through their clothes, cars, and homes. How do Yakuza spend their billions? Now, you will rarely see a person crazy enough to go snooping around a crime boss's home. Still, from time to time, we get a glimpse of just how luxurious the lives of the top echelon of Yakuza gangsters are. In 2014, thanks to a massive police crackdown on the Kudokai family, we saw their leader, Satoru Nomura's multi-million-dollar mansion, which looks more like a fortress. Moreover, we've seen several bosses and high-level gang members travel in ultra-luxurious cars worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. Among the more interesting are the luxurious Nissan Seema, most likely upgraded with bulletproof glass and some other protections, and the Toyota Crown, which is worth approximately $50,000 without the upgrades. In the Yakuza garage, you can also see luxurious Rolls-Royce limos, worth approximately $500,000, some Bentley flying spur cars worth $370,000, the futuristic Toyota Velfire, worth approximately $100,000, and of course, the luxurious Toyota Alphard. These guys prefer the local machines, though one Yakuza boss was driving around in a Lamborghini Aventador. While they don't show it, the Yakuza bosses live a truly lavish lifestyle, and so do their families. However, not everyone is happy with what they get. Just ask Shoko Tendo about her tragic story. If you think cutting off your finger is bad, that's nothing compared to the story of this Yakuza boss's daughter. Shoko Tendo. Shoko Tendo's story is like a roller coaster ride through a gritty crime drama, but with a surprisingly heartwarming twist at the end. Growing up as the daughter of a Yakuza boss, her early life was a chaotic mix of glamour and horror, like if The Godfather had a love child with a telenovela. Tendo's childhood was more yikes than yay. While most kids were worrying about school projects, Tendo was dealing with bullies and a father whose friends made The Sopranos look like the Brady Bunch. By her teens, she was deep in a haze of drugs, violence, and relationships with men who had a penchant for treating her like a human punching bag. But Tendo wasn't about to let her life be a never-ending disaster movie. After hitting rock bottom more times than a yo-yo, she decided to turn her life around. This transformation started in a tattoo parlor. While most people might get a butterfly or a cute dolphin, Tendo went for full-body art that would make even the toughest Yakuza think twice. Her tattoos became a symbol of her newfound strength, a colorful declaration that she was done being a victim. With her newfound resilience, Tendo penned her memoir, Yakuza Moon, which became an unexpected bestseller. Imagine the surprise when the daughter of a crime boss turned into a literary sensation. her book offered a peek into a world most people only see in movies, filled with danger, honor, and a whole lot of ink. These days, Tendo is a single mom to a toddler and has swapped gangsters for writing deadlines. Her partner, a mild-mannered photographer, is the polar opposite of the dangerous men from her past. Her story is a testament that sometimes people get what they deserve. Just like these billionaires who were confronted for their crimes. Do you know what they did? Well, you can find out by clicking on this video next.